when you're insuring your vehicle, one of the main questions you need to ask is, do I have UIM coverage? That's underinsured motorist coverage. And what that means is if the person who hit you has a minimum limits policy in the state of Kentucky is $25,000, and your injuries suffice a $100,000 recovery, well, if you have no UIM, you're capped at $25,000. But if you have $25,000 in liability and you actually pay, this is on your policy, for a UIM coverage, you then have another excess coverage on top of that. So not only can we hit the liability, we hit your UIM. And so that way it protects you in the long run, because at the end of the day, no one can predict how hurt or when a wreck may occur. But what you can control is to talk to your adjuster, your insurance agent, and make sure you're properly covered. Because at the end of the day, injuries change people's lives for the negative. You know, it's not per se a positive. You don't get injured and pop up and say, hey man, this is great. But what you can do is have the adequate coverage in place, especially in small town America. I see it all the time. You know, it's tough out there. Everybody wants the cheapest. What can I get for the cheapest to make sure I'm legal on the road? But at the end of the day, I mean, literally for nominal amounts of money, you can carry UIM coverage, you can carry excess PIP coverage, protect yourself and that vehicle, protect your family. Because what's interesting about it, for example, like a household relative can make a claim under your UIM policy. It's called resident relative. So for example, you have it on your policy, but your son who lives with you in that car, and you're not as hurt, but your son is, he has access to that coverage too. And it's usually in limits. So for example, like $103,000. So that means they can pay one person a maximum of $100,000, but they'll pay out $3,000 total on the claim. So let's say with that UIM coverage, you have a 1 in 3 policy, and you're both injured, we can maximize your claim at an additional $100 and your son's at an additional $100. So that coverage there is so vital to drivers in the state of Kentucky, and most people don't even know about it. And unfortunately, when they do realize that they don't have it, it's too late. They're injured, their injuries are significant, their medical bills are forcing them to look towards bankruptcy options, and that's where they're to help too. But just having that UIM coverage in place can do wonders for not only you, but in your recovery. Also, it should be noted that uninsured motorist coverage, UM, is required in the state of Kentucky. So you're required to have UM coverage. Again, uninsured motorist coverage, that means someone hits me with no insurance, so I can't get anything from them unless you want a personal judgment, but I have UM coverage. So check your UM coverage rates, because in the event you get hit, and excuse my language, by a deadbeat, at the end of the day, the only option you have is to go after your UM coverage. Your UIM is not applicable in that situation, so you're stuck to your UM coverage. It's just little nuances like these that hopefully your adjusters are explaining to you when you purchase these vehicles, because if not, unfortunately, we see clients that end up in situations to where they have significant injuries, but the amount they can recover is minimum based on their coverage.
You know that this life